when they started getting in contact with actual non-human intelligence in their crafts, and they started shooting them down. And one of the questions that I asked these insiders, I said, what was the first thought that went through your mind when you saw this unfold personally? What he explained to me was, it confirmed that there was an afterlife to an extent, that there's more to what they know, but it shows that there's a lot of spiritual stuff involved. I understand how crazy this all sounds, because if I was not in my shoes, I would absolutely say that this is insane. And it is. I'm not going to disagree with that.
Mike Herrera is a former U.S. Marine who claims that in 2009 he witnessed a UFO and a Black Ops team in a remote region of Indonesia while on a humanitarian assistance mission. Herrera came out and revealed his story in June of 2023 at the Disclosure Conference press event in Washington, D.C. Herrera says that he has also spoken to members of the Senate Intelligence Committee, other senators and Congress members, and the former ICIG about what he witnessed. After his public disclosure in June, Michael was put in contact with an individual that says he is a senior-level insider of the organization that Michael witnessed operating with a UFO in Indonesia in 2009. A member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Michael says, informed him that this individual has also come forward and spoken with the government about his organization and its operations. Michael intentionally keeps a low profile, but claims he's working alongside David Grush and a group of others who want to bring the truth out. Recently, he did a 2-hour interview on the Chris Lehto YouTube channel in which he retells his experience of what he witnessed and what he has learned from his insider contact that he's been regularly in touch with. In the interview, there are many interesting details that Herrera discusses. I recommend watching the whole video and hearing Michael speak for yourself, but if you don't have the time or if you want a synopsis with some of the key points, let's dive into it. Michael first recounts his experience in 2009. As he tells it, there was an earthquake in Sumatra in 2009, and Michael's Marine team was sent in to provide aid to the population. Their job was to secure the delivery of the aid packages and protect the Humanitarian Assistance team from any threats. While engaged in the mission, Michael and a few other members of his team noticed a pulsating light in the distance and decided to investigate it. They came upon a large football field-sized UFO and a team of Black Ops personnel who were transporting large crates, which Michael at the time assumed were being used for drugs, something he would later find out more about. After his initial public disclosure in June of 2023, Michael was put in contact with a senior-level insider from the covert UFO program that he had witnessed in Indonesia. Michael goes on to describe his first meeting with this individual and how he looked like a nerd and someone that you wouldn't be able to pick out from a crowd.
He completely didn't look like that type of person, what you would expect. Dressed like a nerd, like somebody at a convention per se. You couldn't pick him out from separate from the crowd, so to speak. So he's very good at playing optics with situational awareness.
In this first meeting, Michael's contact explained to him the whole history of the secretive UFO program and gives us an interesting historical detail that this group was officially started in 1947 in conjunction with the signing of the National Security Act.
He gave me the whole history of how this organization started from 1947 during the National Security Act that the president signed at the time. And their specific thing was to basically investigate crash retrievals with UFOs, basically all the kind of taboo stuff you hear today, talking about the government's type of retrieval teams. So you got blue team, and then you have the black team, which has a more refined and more perfected version of crash retrievals because they've been doing it since the 1940s.
Another interesting historical detail that Michael's source gave him was that this particular group was started in conjunction with the Air Force. And the leader that started it in 1947 was somebody who ended up being very high up in the Air Force. with a little digging, we could probably make some decent educated guesses at who this person might have been. Mike explains that as the decades went on and the personnel in the government changed, knowledge of this group faded away. Adding credibility to Herrera's testimony, he claims to have notified a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee before he met with this individual for his own safety. The senator told him that he had also been working with the same individual.
One of the members of the Senate Intelligence Committee, I reached out to him and let him know. And he actually sent me a message that was pretty empowering. And he says, actually, I'm also working with that gentleman that you're meeting with. He's been relaying information for me to understand what you've been dealing with on top of what his involvement is as well.
And Herrera would also later find out that this guy was one of the witnesses who had spoken with David Grush.
Talking to some very key people, including Grush, for the matter of fact, too.
Herrera's account gets interesting as he relates that after talking with his source during their first meeting, he was invited to go on a helicopter with him to visit a black site. His biggest takeaway from this black site visit that he's able to speak about in the interview is that the entire operation was deep underground and you would never know that it was there. Also, this black site was equipped to take down UFOs with a special energy weapon, which he says they are able to do about 2 to 3 times per year.
We ended up going to a black site. And this black site, which looks abandoned topside, that there's no activity, is genius on their part. But underneath the surface is a very, very, very different story. It's a very active spot in certain references. This particular site, they do a lot of scalar longitudinal weapon testing, or EMPs. This is a very advanced version. The purpose of that facility is to actually take down ET craft.
He explains that even his source, who is senior level in the organization, does not know the whole story and the whole truth of the UFO phenomenon, and there are secrets outside of the organization itself.
Everything is still compartmentalized. It doesn't matter how senior you are in this organization. There's some stuff outside that aspect that you're not going to know about.
His source told him that today it's very difficult and even impossible to distinguish between a man-made and an ET UFO.
He can't differentiate between our stuff, man-made, and ET. That's kind of it's unbelievable. So it means that our stuff that we have is very advanced enough to actually be considered that advanced enough to even replicate ET technology more perfectly than even what I saw in 2009.
Of notice how Herrera pauses multiple times during his interview to express how if he wasn't in his own shoes, he would definitely think this whole story is insane and he would dismiss it.
I understand how crazy this all sounds, because if I was not in my shoes, I would absolutely say that this is insane. And it is. I'm not going to disagree with that. It's a very hard pill for me to swallow. And subsequently to the meeting, I couldn't sleep for about a week.
He goes on to explain that this secret organization has killed people to keep this a secret, and that they have a stranglehold on people in Washington, D.C. But there is currently a group of insiders and Pentagon government officials working together to bring transparency forward, largely because of the positive effect it would have on humanity. They discuss a book that is soon to come out. The identity of the author is not clearly established, but they are the same source that has disclosed this information to Herrera in regards to the UFO operation, the black site. This book is written in a fiction format, but contains the real story of a UFO human trafficking operation. Michael's source informed him that the containers that Michael saw in 2009 were not for drugs but were for humans. The book revealing these details is currently being reviewed by the Pentagon's DOPSR process for pre-publication approval. According to Herrera's sources, these humans are recruited for their predisposition to psychic abilities and then are brought to the deep black underground bases where their abilities are utilized to operate advanced UFO technology in exchange for providing them and their families with financial support, education, and health care. As it's been explained to him, drugs are used to enhance the psionic abilities of these people, and then they are used as an intermediary between an operational device and the craft or technology. In other words, psychic powers are necessary to operate these UFO crafts and technologies.
P3 stands for psionic predisposition potential, or they dub it P3. And this is a screening program that they use to screen certain people throughout the world at a genetic level, from what I understand, that are borderline psychic. And they have the ability to, with help of the black team, with the drugs that they administer with them to boost their consciousness even higher, that they can access this technology pretty easy. So if you think about it this way, option A is going to be a black team member. Option B is going to be a psionic asset. Option C is going to be the advanced tech or ET tech. So black team uses a device that hooks and interfaces with the P3 asset, and then that P3 asset goes and hooks up to that advanced ET technology. From that, what it basically does is they can pilot the stuff. They can. They also are engineers with this too. There's integration with scientists, and this goes all the way back to Operation Paperclip, as a matter of fact, where they pull the brightest minds from Germany, even people who are developing the cutting-edge technology that, you know, they talk about the saucer, or the Glocke, as they call it, or even the saucer that they built. A lot of those scientists end up getting tapped from the black team, and that's how they started doing this R&D program. But the difference is when they started getting in contact with actual non-human intelligence in their crafts, and they started shooting them down, there was basically a mismatch. There was a missing link, if you will. Well, when they figured out that these people exist on Earth that can relatively accommodate them, then that's basically how they solved that problem. So what I actually witnessed in 2009 was not a drug smuggling operation. It was a recruitment program that they were utilizing, scooping people up from that area. And it could be other areas throughout the world, because they look for third world countries. And the reason being is because if they take somebody who's not used to the lifestyle of being a P3 asset, where you have everything provided for you, this includes their families, even if they're children, their children get educations, they get free medical, they get housing, they get food, they get clean water, they have everything that they could ever need provided for them.
In part 2, Michael relates more details about what he has been briefed on regarding the covert UFO program. What's really interesting is that his source has related to him that UFOs are the most boring part of the whole phenomenon.
Only a small percentage of what they do involves anything with reverse engineered craft. That's a very small percentage. It's the most boringest percentage out of everything else that they've got. They've got a lot of other things that, to my knowledge, I've only heard references from, but I cannot confirm that with at least with this source yet.
It just makes you think what else they have that makes UFOs the least interesting. Are we talking time travel, teleportation, or what else? He goes on to talk about how he's been targeted with some intimidation tactics, including the flying of Black Hawk helicopters over his father's house and also following him as he drives. He even says that members of the Senate Intelligence Committee have been targets of the helicopter flyover tactics.
There's members of these black teams that have access to helicopters, and they can do whatever they want with them. And they've been over at my dad's house where they've flown so low over the house where they rattle the walls and, you know, they scare the crap out of you. It's happened to me. They followed my car one time. I was actually on the phone with my dad. They flew right over his house, and he had actually went out to look at it, and it was abnormally low. 10 minutes later, that same helicopter is literally flying low, going over my car. And it's almost like them saying, hey, we can find out where you're at any point. We can touch you. We can do whatever we want. I try to give the government, at least the Pentagon officials, because some of these guys are also having the same thing happen to them too. Quite a few people, as a matter of fact, in the Senate Intelligence Committee are having a helicopter problem too.
He goes on to talk about disclosure and how there is so much more that he doesn't even know about.
You only know what you're told. And everybody thinks that, you know, oh, there's going to be a politician to come on TV and say, hey, guys, we're not alone. There's disclosure right there. Disclosure's already happened. There's been people who've even seen way way more stuff than I've ever seen that work directly in fashion with extraterrestrials that I've talked to. And they have some pretty interesting documents they've submitted to the government. I've talked on behalf of that. You know, even people that came to Grush and told him everything when Grush was investigating this under the Pentagon, you know, that's kind of what opened his eyes.
Of special note is that Herrera's insider has told him that one of the takeaways he personally has had from directly dealing with this phenomena is that it has confirmed for him that there's an afterlife and that spirituality is a central part of this whole situation.
And one of the questions that I asked these insiders, I said, what was the first thought that went to your mind when you saw this unfold personally? And what he explained to me was it confirmed that there was an afterlife to an extent, that there's more to what they know, but it shows that there's a lot of spiritual stuff involved.
Personally, when I think of disclosure being a reality, one of the first positive outcomes I imagine is more advanced beings being able to share with us the secrets of the mystery of what happens after we die. Logically, this is something that a more advanced civilization, say thousands or millions of years older than us, has had time to evolve consciously and pursue these great questions. And we can imagine that they should be able to enlighten us further than our current understanding about questions such as what happens when we die. Understandably, this whole topic is a rabbit hole, and Michael explains how that has been his experience with this for himself.
I guess it's just a rabbit hole that it just keeps getting longer and longer and deeper, and I don't know where it will stop, and I don't know if it will ever stop in the near future, because I think if things go the way that they're planned with this technology being sequestered, then who knows, you know, it's just a massive onion that's being peeled back daily. There's a lot of variables that will either prevent the knowledge coming out very quick, or there's things that may expedite that to come out fully, because I know working with some senators and congressmen and some, you know, people in the government, they want all this stuff to come out too, and they're frustrated they're being told no. They keep getting told no. And that's insane to them. Until we have the understanding of how this is going to be utilized, there's nothing we can really do. It's just being at a standstill until we understand how this actually works and how we're able to operate it and get this into the hands of the public and get them to understand that, yes, our world as we know it is not what we think it is.
It's crazy.
Moving on, Michael explains the practical reasons why this control group wants to continue keeping it secret, mainly because they have killed people in doing so and have committed a large number of crimes in carrying out their operation. This secret group recruits military personnel that they identify as being sociopathic or psychopathic, so that they can be relied on to kill without discretion and carry out other unethical or inhumane operations.
Majority of these guys are former military, but they have a screening process with these guys that if they want to advance their career, it's the only nice way I'm going to put it, or they have another screening process that they do. And this particular process is more about personality. They want people who are sociopathic and they want people who are psychopathic to do the illegal stuff, that have no problem murdering people, including their own people for that matter, because that's what also happens. These, anybody who is compromised, they murder. They don't take chances with it because of the obvious reason. That's why this whole thing is so delicate, because these people helping me could face that. Their whole entire families could face that too, myself included.
In wrapping up, Michael explains the nature of the shadow government, the scale of their operation, and his purpose and mission in coming forward with what he knows and what he's witnessed.
People have to understand that these guys are embedded everywhere. They're embedded in the government. They're embedded in media. They're embedded in show business. They're embedded as entrepreneurs in federal agencies, local law enforcement. Everything that you can think of, there are members of this organization a part of that. And this organization is not in the aspect of just this ET stuff. This is more of the quote unquote shadow government that people keep hearing about. That's what this is. And this is a very, very big monster that is more powerful than our government. I hate to say it, but they are. This is a global thing. They have bases all over the world. I'm just on a one-track mind, and I'm trying to get this truth blown open so all of the people of this world, everybody in this world is entitled to this information, and I believe that 100%. And I'm working for everybody to make sure that this does happen, because once this pillar falls, people have to understand that rest of them are going to be like dominoes. All it takes is one of them to fall over to hit the next one, and for that to hit the next one. And, Grush is doing things behind the scenes with some other people that I know who are also whistleblowers, not in the public sense, but we're all working together on this. So we're all of our stories, all of our experiences, all of our knowledge is now connecting these dots, and it's making this big picture. And I guess I'm just trying to find knowledge for humanity and for myself. And rest assured that I'm not going to give up.
This 2-hour interview with Michael Herrera is a bombshell. He may be well under the radar, but he is one of those individuals that senators like Marco Rubio have publicly referred to as coming forward to him with information about UFO crash retrieval and reverse engineering operations. He is working directly with an insider from one of these programs who wants to expose it, who has met himself with the Senate Intelligence Committee as well as David Grush. Remember, the Senate Intelligence Committee includes Chuck Schumer, who headed the UAP disclosure bill, which demands all technologies and biologics of non-human intelligence be turned over to the government. As others have stated, Schumer would not write such a lengthy bill if he didn't realize that there was really something going on here. Herrera is most likely one of these individuals who has come forward with compelling evidence of the biggest secret in human history. Things are continuing to unravel and move forward. It will be really interesting to see this book that they reference and what details they reveal about this human trafficking and psionic operations of the UFOs. All the dots from both the decades-long history of UFO and paranormal to the more recent disclosures and government investigations are slowly starting to connect. Stay tuned for more from Mike Herrera. He says that this month he's supposed to be shown something firsthand, to witness the technology and its operation firsthand, which he says is an intentional step forward in disclosure.
They want me to experience a lot of this stuff firsthand so I can make up my own mind about it, and I can tell my own account about it. More like a verifiable source. Like they're using me as a verification source, but at the same time, I'm using them as a verification source too. There's supposed to be some other people involved that are supposed to go witness this too. So we'll see how that goes.
Hopefully, Mike will be able to share more with us soon.